more prisoners have been let out in error. It comes hours after the Algerian defender Brahim Kaddour Sharif was caught and rearrested, putting yet more pressure on Justice Secretary David Lammy.
This is crazy, bro.
Britain's prison system has collapsed. December 27, 2025. 38,042 inmates were freed under the government's emergency early release scheme between September 2024 and June 2025. 38,000 prisoners released early, an average of 129 prisoners freed early every day between September last year and June, every single day. Under the standard determinate sentences 40 scheme, prisoners serving a fixed-term sentence can be freed after just 40% of their sentence, not 50%, not two-thirds, 40%. Between April 2024 and March 2025, 262 prisoners were released in error from prisons and courts in England and Wales, the highest number on record and a 128% increase from the year before. Released in error, wrong prisoners, dangerous offenders, walked out of prison by mistake. The prison system remains at crisis point, with 88,081 of 89,042 spaces in use, minus 99% capacity. Despite the tens of thousands of early releases, the number of people in prison has still risen from 86,966 in September last year to 87,465. They released 38,000 prisoners, and the population still went up. But before we expose how Britain's justice system has become a revolving door where criminals serve a fraction of their sentences while the system spirals into chaos, let's be honest. Mainstream media won't tell you that HM Chief Inspector of Prisons said prisoners being released in error is symptomatic of the chaos that we're seeing within the system that needs to be fixed. That the Justice Committee chair said the justice system is at breaking point, or that 262 wrong prisoners were released in 1 year. That's why we built British Front Media. Subscribe now for unfiltered coverage of Britain's prison catastrophe. Reason number 1. Nearly 40,000 prisoners have been released early under an emergency scheme introduced to prevent total system collapse, with inmates now serving just 40% of their sentences. 38,042 inmates were freed under the government's emergency early release scheme between September 2024 and June 2025, the SDS 40 scheme. An average of 129 prisoners freed early every day, 129 per day. For 9 months straight, 16,231 people were released early from prison between the 10th of September and the 31st of December 2024. Alone, 92% of releases were from male prison establishments, 14,940, with 1,291 releases from female establishments. The age group with the highest number of releases was 39 to 39 years, accounting for 37% of releases, 6,066. HMP Humber released the largest number of prisoners under SDS 40, with 483, followed by HMP Berwyn with 438, and HMP Fosse Way with 433. The highest number of women, 184, were released from Eastwood Park, hundreds from single prisons, thousands nationally, all in months. Why? The scheme was introduced as a temporary measure to reduce prison overcrowding, allowing certain prisoners to be released after serving 40% of their fixed-term sentence rather than the usual 50%. The move followed widespread warnings that the prison estate was at breaking point, with facilities operating well above safe capacity levels. Breaking point. With 88,521 inmates against 84,614 capacity in 2024, the 99.7% occupancy triggered SDS 40. Almost 100% full, nowhere to put new prisoners, so they released old ones early. Justice Secretary took decisive action to stop prisons from collapsing. Collapse, that's the government's own word. Reason number 2. The system has become so chaotic that 262 prisoners were released in error in 1 year, a 128% increase, including dangerous offenders who should never have walked free. Between April 2024 and March 2025, 262 prisoners were released in error from prisons and courts in England and Wales. 262 mistakes. In 12 months, this is the highest number on record and a 128% increase on those released in error in the year ending March 2024. Released in error, what does that mean? This includes those who were released early or late, and those who should have been discharged to an immigration removal centre. Wrong prisoners, released accidentally, dangerous criminals, walked out, immigration detainees, freed into Britain. Some of these releases in error have attracted public attention, including the release of Hadush Kibatu, Billy Smith, and Brahim Kadua Sherif. High-profile cases, media coverage, public outrage, but they're only the ones we know about. The number of prisoners released in error was around 0.5% of the 57,000 correctly released from prison in the year ending March 2025. 0.5% sounds small, until you realise that's 262 dangerous criminals who shouldn't be free. The Prison Governors Association has stated that releases in error are neither rare nor hidden, and have occurred under every government's watch. Not rare, not hidden, normal, under every government. The system is so broken that wrong prisoner releases are routine. Justice Secretary announced 91 prisoners have been incorrectly released since April 2025. 91. In 8 months. It's reported that hundreds of prisoners have been released incorrectly over the past decade, with an estimated 262 cases in the year up to March 2025 alone. Reason number 3. Despite releasing 38,000 prisoners, the total prison population has still increased, meaning the crisis continues to worsen with no end in sight as demand outstrips supply. Here's the maddening reality. Despite the tens of thousands of early releases, the number of people in prison has still risen from 86,966 in September last year to 87,465. They released 38,000 prisoners. The population went up by 500. How is that possible? Because the number of prisoner first receptions was around 18,900 in April to June 2025. 2% higher than the same period in 2024. Remand, sentenced and recall admissions all increased compared to the same quarter in 2024. More people coming in than going out, even with emergency releases. Recall admissions saw the largest increase, rising by 15% from the same period in 2024. Recalls, prisoners released early, who reoffend, who get recalled to prison, creating a revolving door. The population recalled to custody has increased by 1% to 12,657 prisoners. The prison system remains at crisis point, with 88,081 of 89,042 spaces in use on the 14th of April. Still 99% full. After releasing 38,000, the 99,300 projected inmates by 2026 against 4,400 new places pushes early releases. Projected 99,300 inmates, only building 4,400 new spaces. That's a 95,000 shortfall. While the government has pledged to build 14,000 new prison places, with 2,500 already opened since July 2024, the system remains stretched, building 14,000 spaces over 7 years. While demand grows by 13,000 per year, the mathematics don't work. Despite building as quickly as we can, demand for places will outstrip supply by 9,500 in early 2028. Reason number 4. The causes of wrongful releases include catastrophic administrative failures with archaic paper-based systems leading to sentence calculation errors, while staff shortages compound the chaos. Why are 262 prisoners released by mistake each year? The causes may be complex due to errors in sentence calculation, factors such as failing to take periods spent on remand fully into account, mistaking concurrent sentences for consecutive ones, and failing to take account of the early release scheme. Sentence calculation errors. Manual mistakes. The shorter delays are typically down to a failure of the prison to carry out the release orders received from the court in a timely manner. Courts send release orders. Prisons don't process them. Prisoners stay locked up illegally or released illegally. Initial issues surrounding eligibility for the scheme contributed to the rise in releases in error in the year ending March 2025. Nobody knows who's eligible. Complex rules. Overworked staff. Mistakes inevitable. The Justice Secretary announced that over the next 6 months, up to £10 million will be spent on the rollout of new AI-powered tools in prisons to accelerate upgrades to the archaic paper-based systems so that staff can accurately calculate sentences. Archaic paper-based systems. In 2025, Britain's prison system. Running on paper. Henk Chief Inspector of Prisons Charlie Taylor said that prisoners being released in error is symptomatic of the chaos that we're seeing within the system that needs to be fixed by the leadership of the prison service. Symptomatic of chaos, not an anomaly, a symptom. The system is chaotic. releases in error are just one manifestation. The chair of the Justice Committee, Andy Slaughter, said that the justice system is at breaking point and that releases in error will continue until underlying issues are addressed. Breaking point. Releases in error will continue, not might, will, until underlying issues fixed, which they won't be, because the justice system is starved of investment over many years, facing multifaceted pressures, including overcrowding and understaffing within a decaying prison estate, characterized by chaos and instability. Reason number 5. Probation services are overwhelmed with 140,000 offenders under supervision, as early releases flood the system faster than support services can manage them. Release prisoners early. What happens to them? Probation. The total caseload of offenders supervised before or after release from prison at the end of June 2025 was 140,344, representing an increase of 3% compared to June 2024. 140,000 offenders under probation supervision. The number of offenders supervised under post-release supervision rose by 5% to 63,638 between June 2024 and June 2025. 63,000 people released from prison, all needing supervision, housing, support, jobs. Can probation handle it? In Parliament, a Lord asked, "Is the Minister satisfied that when a prisoner is discharged, particularly in early discharge, they have somewhere to stay when they have left prison? Do they have somewhere to stay?" The Minister responded, "The release scheme that we inherited from the previous government was very chaotic. Far too many people left prison and were recalled very quickly, which meant that more victims were created. Previous scheme was chaotic, people released, recalled quickly, more victims created. Is the new scheme better?" The SDS 40 scheme was far more stable and organised, and probation colleagues had the time to find accommodation. But do they actually find it? Accommodation is one of the key factors in ensuring that when someone gets out of prison, they stay out. The government will significantly increase probation service funding by around 45% by the final year of the spending review period, meaning the annual budget of around £1.6 billion today will rise by up to £700 million by 2028-29. 45% increase, £700 million more, by 2028. Great, what about now, in 2025, when 38,000 prisoners have already been released? With current staffing, current budgets, one MP in Parliament noted, "I was in a women's prison where the average length of stay was 46 days. There was one very ill woman who on average tries to take her life over 20 times a month. 46 days average stay. Women attempting suicide 20 times monthly. These are the people being released into communities with minimal supervision." Reason number 6. New sentencing reforms mean prisoners will soon be released after serving just 33% of their sentence, while the sentencing bill promises to make the situation worse, not better. Emergency releases were temporary. Right. Wrong. The sentencing bill currently in the Lords aims at increasing space in prisons by restricting the use of short sentences and strengthening community punishments. It will feature an earned progression scheme, which will see well-behaved convicts released early. How early? Prisoners who obey the rules while in jail and are on standard determinate sentences could be released having served as little as 33% of their term under the bill. 33%. 1/3 of their sentence. Labour claimed the worst offenders, such as those on extended determinate or life sentences, will not benefit from the system. But the Tories claimed rapists and paedophiles often serve standard sentences and therefore could be eligible for early release. Standard sentences, eligible for 33% release. Sexual offenders, violent criminals, released after serving 1/3. The new earned progression model will see prisoners earn their way to release through good behaviour or face longer in jail. There will be no automatic release for prisoners who misbehave. Sounds good. Until you realise good behaviour in an overcrowded, chaotic prison system means not causing immediate trouble. A prisoner's release date will now be more dependent on their behaviour. We want to reduce violence in prison and make sure more prisoners engage with activities like education and employment. Engage with education. In prisons with paper-based admin systems, releasing wrong prisoners, operating at 99% capacity, with staff shortages, chaos and instability. Sure, education programs will work great. When released, offenders will enter a new period of intensive supervision, which will see tens of thousands more offenders tagged and many more placed under home detention. Intensive supervision, by probation services already managing 140,000 cases, tags, which require monitoring, by staff who don't exist in sufficient numbers. Here's where Britain stands. 38,042 prisoners released early, 129 per day, 262 released in error. Prison population still rising despite releases. 99% capacity. 9,500 space shortfall by 2028. New law allowing 33% releases. 140,000 under probation supervision. Archaic paper systems. System at breaking point. Britain's prisons have collapsed. Not metaphorically, literally. They released 38,000 criminals because there was no other choice. The alternative was complete system failure. Prisoners in police cells. Courts unable to send anyone to jail. Total breakdown of law and order. So they released them. 40% of sentence served. 129 per day for 9 months, and the population still rose because more criminals keep arriving, faster than they can release the old ones, even with emergency measures. Meanwhile, 262 wrong prisoners walked free. Calculation errors, administrative chaos, paper-based systems, overworked staff, dangerous criminals released by mistake, immigration detainees freed into Britain, high-profile cases, media attention, government promises to fix it, with AI systems, in 6 months, with £10 million. While the underlying chaos continues, probation services drowning, 140,000 offenders under supervision, thousands more added monthly, early releases flooding the system, need accommodation, jobs, support, monitoring, with staff that don't exist, budgets that won't increase until 2028, if then, and government solution? Release them even earlier. 33% of sentence, 1/3, for good behavior, in prisons characterized by chaos and instability, with earned progression schemes, intensive supervision, electronic tagging, all requiring systems and staff that don't exist. This isn't criminal justice. This is crisis management. This isn't punishment. This is processing. Get them in, get them out. Keep the doors rotating, because if the doors stop, the whole system collapses. Courts back up, police can't arrest, criminals walk free anyway, just without the pretense of justice. That's Britain 2025, where 38,000 prisoners are released early because there's nowhere to keep them, where another 262 are released by mistake because the system's too chaotic to know who should be free, where the population still rises despite emergency releases, where new laws promise 33% sentences, where probation manages 140,000 cases with inadequate staff and resources. Ministers warned of system failure, except it's not a warning, it's reality. The system already failed, prison capacity maxed out, emergency releases implemented, wrong prisoners freed, population still growing, building can't keep pace, releases can't keep pace, nothing keeps pace, and government promises reform, earned release, intensive supervision, more tags, more probation funding, by 2028, while criminals serve 1/3 of their sentences, while victims see attackers released after months, while communities watch dangerous offenders return to streets, while the revolving door spins faster, one early release at a time.